I'll be a mother to your child. G'day. You know what's really funny? I recorded a half an hour session of this. Look at my hair. It's beautiful, isn't it? Half an hour session. And realized at the end that my microphone wasn't on. So all that beautiful advice, God. Oh well. That's life. That's life. I said all that. So this is part 2. I'm a professional. I have to say that stuff. This is how me personally, got through depression. Maybe it's not for you. That's life, man. Like, everyone goes through things differently. This is part 2. I'm going to talk about how I got through depression. Look at this. Whoa, with beautiful hair and high cheekbones. All right, so this is part 2. There's so much you can talk about in half an hour and still not have everything that you want to say, you know? Depression's like that, you know, and it's always changing. Like, you'll be depressed about one thing one week and then depressed about another thing the next week. It's like sticky. It's like a residue that will be with you forever. But you don't have to let it. It's only there while you let it. Sometimes it's like, I'm not going to leave my room for this long and just let the depression hit me. And that's bad. You know? I didn't talk about a lot of things last time because, you know, like, there's only so much things you can remember in one sitting. Like, half an hour is pretty good talk. So I'm going to talk about more things that I did in my life. Like, improving my diet. So I talked about how I started cooking for myself at night. Through the day, I actually changed my diet a lot. Less takeaway food, more nutritious food. That's pretty obvious. A lot of people do that sort of thing. Say that to do that, but it's hard to do when you don't leave your bed or bedroom or whatever for weeks on end. You know, like, or you ache with a packet of chips the day before, and then you overeat the next day, and it's a cycle that continue. Yeah, I know it all too well. Depression is as I see, it's like smart people get a lot of depression. Overthinkers, people who can either, you know, like, reflect on things too much, and it can go through their head over and over again, and you can see every problem from every angle and every, like, how you could have fixed it, how you could have done better, how you could have done this, how you could have done that. That's just a symptom of a intellectual or smart person, you know. Maybe because you've got depression, maybe, you know, it's just a sign of that sort of thing. And I wonder if Einstein was depressed, or if he had any of those sorts of problems, or maybe you can look it up. There's a lot of thought, you know, like, especially with me, you know, like, I can think back 10 years and recall everything said on that day, and what was said and how it was said, and I'll dwell on it and see it from every different angle to try and figure out how I could have done things differently. But I've got to stop myself thinking of those things, you know, if they're in the past, and letting them go and not allowing yourself to go down those alleyways. You know, you start to think of one thing that will lead into the next, and they progressively get worse. You've got to, like, head yourself off. You've got to stop yourself from going down that path and that thought pattern. Start to change that thought pattern, especially at night in bed. Night in bed is a really good time where you start to reflect on those things. And I know one thing is life and death. Life and death used to really upset me. The thought of death is hard, but so is the thought of life. Like, I was brought up religious, and the thought of living forever scared the crap out of me because of, it's a long time. It's forever. You can get bored of things on Earth. Imagine having forever in a place. You get bored of everything. So that thought alone used to drive me crazy. You know, like what are you meant to do in a situation like that? What are you meant to do? I broke that cycle by, um, like we do not know enough about. We don't know much about time here, but time on Earth is linear, back and forth. We don't know what time is like if there is a heaven or in the next life or any other life. It could be, it could expand out, it could go around. Time is only time on Earth. You don't know if time's the same anywhere else. So how I got over that was like, this is a dimension where time exists and time goes back and forth. But the next dimension where, if there's a god or where we go to, will not have time in the same way. Time would be perceived completely different. So you can't tell what time's going to be like until you get there. And so I have to think of those things if I get there. So you put them off. You go, oh, I'm allowed to think of this thing when I'm 90 years old, not now. I'm not allowed to think of that now. These things I'm allowed to think of in the future, but not now. That's one way of dealing with that sort of a thought thing. I'm not allowed to think of that now. I'll think of that when I'm 90 years old. By then, I should have figured it all out. Or, not in this life, next life. I talked about how you need to feel that position with religion. Like there's a part in your brain that has religion and that we evolved with religion, and how you need to feel that with something. And it's pretty true. I think like companies know that, and they feel it with stuff and things. And like, well, you're going to religiously like buy products or whatever, or like say like different isms, they're going to become your personality because you will religiously follow those things. I can say that like leading up to death, what would you rather? That you believed in a God and an afterlife through your life and died. Even if you didn't go to heaven in your life, you would have been a lot happier thinking you were going to an afterlife than believing in nothing and dying and knowing there was nothing. It's kind of pretty off-putting and sad. You can convince yourself there will be an afterlife, even if you don't, to try and get yourself, motivated into that sort of thing. Like we evolved with it. Put it in your brain. Pretend like there's an afterlife. You don't have to like fully believe it, but it is a good way of living your life, because then you're living. You live for this moment as well, but you live a bit more comfortably, knowing that maybe something will go on. You never know. Maybe human society end up being like gods and end up turning everyone that's ever lived into forever beings. So why not be a good soul, and they'll come back when they can go through time to get you if you're a decent person. You never know, man. Anything is possible in this world. That's my cat. That's Poppy. Poppy Seed Jordan. What's his name? A rearrange a room. He loves it. He doesn't like that's why he's skittish. He gets a bit scared when things get moved around. Anyway, I talking about friends and all that sort of stuff, and how you need to get new friends if they're treating you bad. Fair enough, you do. I had a lot of people message me and they're like, "Oh, you make that about me?" Or, "No, I didn't make that about anyone. I was just having, off the top of my head, having a chat with you guys, like trying to help you guys out, and maybe trying to help myself out a bit too, What's another thing? Talk about alcohol. Yeah, alcohol is something I used to do every second night. I don't anymore. I drink maybe twice a week. I used to think I could get away with it every second night, but you can't. You're better off drinking maybe, 2 times a week or once a week and having that big day than What happens is you don't grow up. If you start doing drugs every day or you start to drink every day, you don't allow yourself to feel some emotions and some things that happen in life. And if you keep drinking and putting off those emotions and those things, you don't grow as a person. And 10 years can go by and all your friends have grown emotionally and physically and spiritually, and you haven't. You've stuck yourself in this hole of continuing to drink, passing this kicking can down the line until one day you start to wake out of it and realize that you're stuck a certain way and you missed out on 10 years worth of growth because of that. It's a pretty bad way to be. I would suggest trying to allow yourself to grow, without alcohol and without things, because you do need to feel those things. And the more you get over those things, the more you grow as a human. You can get stuck in certain ways. I know that. Alcohol's pretty hard to get over. So drugs, I've got some ideas and some support on how to do that. I'll talk about that after this video. Maybe later. Not tonight, maybe tomorrow. More about that sort of stuff and other drugs you can use instead of bad drugs, all that sort of stuff, which would be cool. I like getting a pet. This cat here is really good. It's really really affectionate. Gives me lots of love. Like, dogs are good for people that like to look after things more and can clean up after a dog and they need so much emotional support. Cats are pretty good because they'll look after themselves. But if you get a good cat, they'll come to you when you need them emotionally, even. It's surprising like that. Society's pretty sick. It kind of sucks that Australia, even in Australia, doesn't have the support networks it should. And that I've taken people to hospital with mental anguish and problems. And when I've taken them there, they've hinted at me that they're just crazy. And that's not fair. Depression isn't being crazy. You come off as crazy, but you're not. You're very sane. You just need... It's almost like there's something there that somebody can give you, but nobody knows how to, like, is there a wonder drug or this or that? You go to hospital thinking that maybe, they could, do something on that spot, and all of a sudden you come home and you're not depressed anymore and all that sort of stuff. It's never going to work. But it sucks the way things are. There isn't a place you can go to, spend a few months and come back normal. Maybe more research into this, and one day there will be, maybe taking ketamine, or I've heard that works, or I know something that works, but I'll talk about that later. One thing that helped with me was writing down every problem I ever had and all the things that made me depressed. And it took me a while, and then I showed the people that made me depressed, and I showed the people that I wrote about what they did. Because some of them take it pretty bad, and some of them take it pretty well. And then we came up with ways to get past that. The bad thing I did was show people at school the same thing. That was bad, because other people, they'll just bail on you, or think you're just trying to get attention and all that sort of stuff. Just show the people that you've written about why and how, and do that, and it helps, and confronting what you've gone through or the people that put you in that position is a pretty good thing that I did, and I hope that would help with you guys as well. When I go to bed now, there are things I'm not allowed to think of. Just as I said before, that is my safe area where I go into, that bed, a squared, rectangle. I'm not allowed to think of certain things as well. You can write those down and go, okay, I'm not allowed to think of this. These things will lead on to this thought. That thought will lead on to this. And it's all bad. And you can write them all down and make sure that you don't go into the traps. They're like traps, if I start thinking about death, I know what that's going to lead into. So I don't think about it. I'm not allowed to. And your mind will be like, no, you have to think about it. Well, you can trick yourself and say, I'm allowed to think of this at a certain age or a given time. That way, you'll be a lot happier mentally pushing it off. Be like, I'll do it then instead of then. That's going to be my talk for today. My last talk was half an hour. But there's always heaps to talk about, and I'll talk about it more. There'll be part 3, part 4, part 5. Much love, guys. The world's pretty hard out there, but stick together. Things will get better. Thank you.